Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. And whither I go, ye know, and the way ye know.
Texas teenager sharing a deeply personal story tonight of dying, seeing Jesus, and then coming back to life.
And he is describing what he saw and heard during those minutes without oxygen.
Zach Clements is a strong teenager. He's a high school football player at Victory Life Academy in Brownwood, Texas, and obviously he's got a sense of humor. By all measures, he's a healthy young man, which is why it's still a shock
I was running and I had collapsed.
that he dropped to the ground during PE class last week.
Not sure why.
It was a sudden cardiac arrest, according to his doctors. His mother was immediately called and even beat the ambulance to the emergency room.
When they opened the ambulance door, he was blue, and they were on top of him doing chest compressions.
Technically and medically, he was dead.
And they said that I was without a heartbeat for 20 minutes.
And just as hospital staff were ready to make it official, they got a pulse. He was airlifted to Cook Children's Hospital in Fort Worth and woke up days later. His recovery has been incredible, but even more mind-blowing is the story he tells of what he saw during the time many believed he had died.
I saw a man that had longish kind of ruffled hair with a kind of thick beard, and it didn't take me long to realize that that was Jesus.
He's describing what his family is convinced was a near-death miracle.
I went up to him and he put his hand on my shoulder and told me that everything would be all right and not to worry. I was just calm and just at peace.
The cynics out there will say, you've seen too many movies.
And for him to wake up and tell us something that he experienced like that, it's just, I mean, you can't explain it. It's not humanly possible to explain it.
Billy Clements is the teen's father. He says accepting his son's experience as a miracle is the only thing that makes sense.
And that's what we're standing on. That was a rhema word from God that we got, and we're going to hold on to that.
Do you think this is something that might strengthen your faith?
It is. I heard angels singing in the background.
It may be a medical mystery for the doctors, but for this family, there's no question it was divine intervention.
I'm just glad he decided to let me have my baby back.
In Fort Worth, Ken Molestina, CBS 11 News.
20 minutes, wrap your head around that.
It's so tough to wrap your head around.
You get one life unless you're a local 25-year-old who says he is on his fourth. Davidson Tendry has the story.
Rain has kept games away from the softball diamond today, but whether or not Landon Whitley is able to toss the ball, this is where he feels closest to his late father.
And it felt like every time I was there on the field, even though I couldn't see him physically, it felt like inside of me he was there.
In 1997, all was well. Landon and his parents were driving home from church when they were T-boned at a Mint Hill intersection. Landon lost his father that day. His mother was severely hurt, but survived.
I didn't understand where God was at to allow the tragedy.
Landon's father was driving the vehicle. His seat flew back, crushing Landon in the back seat. Initially, medics couldn't even tell there was a child in the car.
But one of the workers found a child's shoe And when they found his shoe, they started looking for the body that matched.
3 times that day, Landon died, flatlined. Paramedics worked to save him. He says each time he went to heaven where he was with Jesus, angels, his father, and 2 siblings he had never known existed.
My mom had 2 miscarriages before me that I had never known about, never heard about. I was able to see them.
Landon says his trip to heaven was a short one. He says Jesus told him it wasn't his time. So back to earth where it took time for Landon's injuries to mend.
We got 23 metal plates in my head. My nose was reconstructed out of the back part of my skull, and I can't see out of my left eye, or better yet, it's all blurry.
His mother, Julie, her scars are more emotional. And to cope, she wrote a book detailing the family's healing process over the years.
These days, I can thank God for giving me the strength to get through it. I didn't see the strength when I was going through all that. I saw the challenges and the hurt.
Okay, so right now we're driving up to the intersection where Landon's accident happened. And Landon, just tell me, what goes through your mind when you approach this scene?
I pass by here almost every day, and of course it sparks back memories from the past, but at the same time it just became part of my normal everyday life of going through here.
Landon is even to the point where he can make light of his situation.
Someone could say, Landon, you and I are about to have a come to Jesus talk. I was like, well, I've already came to him 3 times.
Now in his mid-20s, baseball is replaced with softball, and he proudly wears the number his dad once gave him.
He lost control of his truck, swerved over my lane. The 9 wheels of the truck rolled over my car.
Don Piper died instantly.
They did all the tests they had at their disposal and determined that I was deceased.
But in reality, his new life was just beginning.
I was driving along a highway one moment, and the very next moment, a fraction of a second, I'm actually standing at the gates of heaven.
90 minutes later, a passerby witnesses his miraculous return to life.
I think his actual words were, "The dead man is singing." Well, that's not something that, you would typically hear. And so, well, you just think, it's air escaping from the lungs. We've checked in, we've run all the tests. We're medical professionals. We know a dead body.
Today on Life Focus, the man who went to heaven and back.
Heaven is a buffet for the senses. It is a sensory explosion. All the sights that we have here, that we see. If I'm standing on the rim of the Grand Canyon and I'm looking at the sunset, I'm thinking, this is just awesome. Heaven is 1,000,000 times more beautiful than that.
In the late 1980s, Don Piper, a busy pastor and father of 3, might have been cynical when people described their experiences after being declared clinically dead. But he never doubted the reality of heaven.
I knew it was breathtakingly beautiful. I knew that it was eternal. I just didn't see how a person could really die and go to heaven and come back and talk about it.
But all that changed one rainy day in 1989. It was here at the Veterans of Foreign Wars Memorial Bridge north of Houston that Don Piper died.
People need to know that heaven is real, and I had a chance to see that.
His chance came after attending a pastors' convention at Trinity Pines Conference Center, several hours north of Houston. The journey began with a small but fateful decision.
That day I paused at the gate and really just decided to go a different route.
Don's new route headed south on Texas Highway 19.
It was raining, cold, the windshield wipers are going.
At 11:45 a.m., he approached the long and narrow Memorial Bridge.
And I couldn't see beyond the end of the bridge. I had a 110-mile-an-hour impact with a big truck. I never saw the truck. There was no reaction time.
The 2 vehicles collided head-on.
I was driving along a highway one moment, and the very next moment, a fraction of a second, I'm actually standing at the gates of heaven.
Don cannot recall the 90 minutes on Earth, but vividly remembers his experience in a more glorious place.
The brilliance of the light, the magnificence of the light is beyond anything I have ever gazed upon here on Earth. It is almost as if everything is alive. It just glistened.
Several other vehicles were involved in the accident. The truck rolled over the top of Don's Ford Escort, crushing his body.
My internal organs had really been crushed. The roof of the car collapsed on my head, and I had been bleeding from the ears and the eyes and the mouth and nose, which were all brain damage signs.
The arm was basically in the back seat. I mean, those were very apparent injuries.
The dash came across both of my legs, just kind of like a guillotine.
A guillotine that crushed his right leg and nearly severed his left leg above the knee.
4 inches of the femur, the largest bone in the human body, was ejected from the car. Apparently out the window into the lake because it was never located.
His left arm was also nearly severed and missing several inches of bone.
Eventually 4 ambulances arrived. They ran EKGs. They did all the tests they had at their disposal and determined that I was deceased. A policeman got a waterproof tarp out of his squad car, came over to my vehicle so no one would have to see what I looked like in the car. It was quite awful to look at.
The news of the accident reached Don's wife, Eva, but she was not told the accident was fatal.
There's been a wreck, and Don's been hurt. That's all they knew at that point in time. And the thing I remember most about that is just a very real sense of peace just covered me from my head to my toes. And I knew he was going to be okay.
But medical personnel at the scene believed differently.
They actually phoned for the county official, a justice of the peace, to come to the scene to sign documents which would allow the body to be transported to a mortuary.
Until this man came to the scene.
And I was a stranger to him.
The late Dick Honorecker, seen here in a previously recorded interview, was also on his way home from the pastors' conference and stopped to help.
Very candidly, it was as though I was compelled to stop and to pray for him. The Lord just impressed on me very emphatically, very urgently, that I was to pray for him.
So Dick approached one of the officers and said, is there anyone here I can pray for? And he was told no, because the 2 people in the other 2 cars had actually been transported. And I, of course, was deceased. So they said, quite honestly, there is no one to pray for.
But Dick insisted.
And I laid my hands on him and began to pray for him, that there be no internal injuries and there be no head injuries.
At 1:15 p.m., a full 90 minutes after Don Piper had been declared dead, the unbelievable happened.
And I'm hearing a voice behind me. And that voice is the voice of Dick Honorecker.
I began to sing, and all of a sudden I heard him singing with me.
Hearing his own voice singing jarred this survivor back to earth.
I was in utter brilliance in heaven. Now I'm in the dark, and I'm thinking, why is it dark?
His next sensation? Excruciating pain.
It was about to get as sorrowful and dreadful and painful as what I had just experienced was glorious and majestic. Every time my heart would beat, it would be like hitting my limbs with a hammer.
Turned away from 2 local hospitals, Don felt every bump and shake during the nightmarish ride to Houston.
It was just the most excruciating, powerful, throbbing pain that I didn't even know you could feel pain like that.
Don finally arrived at Memorial Hermann Hospital's trauma center.
My internal organs were intact.
Doctors determined Don amazingly did not have any brain damage or head injuries.
And even though my other injuries are cataclysmic, those 2 life-threatening experiences are no longer in existence. They have been prayed away by a man on a bridge under a tarp.
When I saw him in the emergency room, he was being evaluated by numerous other doctors in addition to me.
It soon became evident to Dr. Thomas Grider, an orthopedic surgeon, if they didn't take drastic measures immediately, Don may not survive.
We had to find a way to either take off the leg, or there was a new device that had not been used very often to save the leg
The experimental device, called an Elizarov frame, had rarely been used in the United States.
Because we have to put it into the leg through the muscles, is extremely painful, and that's why it's only used with a great deal of reluctance.
Metal wires and rods force the bone to grow while keeping the surrounding tissue intact.
The problem with that would be it could conceivably break or fail before the bone healed.
Amputation would be less painful.
He would only need probably one operation, then he'd be done with it, and then we could fit him with a prosthesis to let him get out of bed and start moving.
Eva made the difficult decision to try the Elizarov frame.
There was no guarantee that it would work, but at least Don would have his leg.
If you can imagine taking an ice pick and just kind of burying it into your leg to the bone and then moving around it, I had 30 of those on my left leg, and I had 12 of them on my left arm.
There are many times while Don was recovering that he was angry with me for giving that permission, because it was just excruciatingly painful.
I never went to sleep for a year. I just, I fought it, and I strained, and then I would find myself unconscious. I just passed out.
Ultimately, Don endured 34 painful surgeries.
I wanted to go to heaven on a minute-to-minute basis. I never wanted to come back from heaven. I still would prefer to be there than here.
His yearning turned into heavy depression.
That was my scariest time. That was when I guess my faith did waver a little bit, because Don wasn't trying. And that's so unlike him. He's so determined. And he had quit.
It was a dark period, a very, very dark period. Two things really seemed to overwhelm me. A sense of what I saw and lost, and a sense of what I might ever do that mattered.
It was just too much for him. And I'd fuss at him, I'd cajole, I'd plead, I'd whatever. And he didn't want it. He would just literally turn his head. He wouldn't talk to me. And that was rough. That was very hard.
And people were nice, and they were thoughtful, but no one would ever make the statement, "You're going to be fine. You're going to walk again."
For a year and a half, Don kept his heavenly experience to himself.
I didn't want to share it. I felt like it was a sacred secret.
My advice to him was, you're going to have to be comfortable with sharing this experience. I would suggest you pick a couple people that you know, that you trust.
Reluctantly, Don trusted in David Gentiles, his best friend for over 30 years.
I guess he was just kind of seeing if I would laugh at him or say he was crazy or whatever.
A small part of it probably had to do with the fact that I felt if I shared it, people would think that I just had lost it.
Don slowly revealed more details of what he witnessed during the 90 minutes his body lay lifeless.
I heard angels more than saw them. And what I could hear was the beating of their wings. And so it was just an awesome presence of the angels, and they're everywhere. In heaven, you can hear thousands of glorious songs. You hear them all at the same time, and there is no chaos.
Frankly, to have someone I knew sitting across from me saying, well, and I saw this, and it looked this color, and this was the sound, it was a little freaky.
Don cannot forget the moment he reached Heaven's Gate.
There was a parting of the crowd and revealing, the street, and so I began to move forward. And it was becoming obvious that it's time for me now, having been welcomed, to enter. I'm not sure we walked. I know that sounds very strange. Let's just say we moved.
They moved toward the gate on what Don says appeared to be a street of gold.
The closer you get to the gate, the brighter it gets, and inside the gate is an utter brilliance. I was in the presence of God, and I would never have to suffer pain again. I would never have to be weary again. I would never have to worry again.
But as Don crossed the threshold, he paused.
That pause was my moment to return. The culmination of all those prayers on earth was realized at that moment, as God, in His infinite wisdom, decided it was not my time and sent me back.
Today, Don travels worldwide to share his story with an eager audience.
I had to find a way to take the mess that I had found myself in and turn it into a message.
If God can resuscitate a dead guy in a red car, he can give you...
Take it, Lord, take it, Lord, take it away from us, Jesus. Father God, all power is in your Son's name. Take this up away from our home. As you did for Elijah, you take this away from us. Take it up away from our home. Take it away from this town. Father, in the name of Jesus, you take this. Lord, I am not afraid. Take it, Lord, away from us. Take it, Lord, away from us. I give you praise, I give you glory. Take this away from us. Holy outside, you take this funnel away from us, Lord.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. O my Jesus, forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell. Lead all souls to heaven, especially those in most need.
Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing psalms. Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much.
Blanca Woody read about Jared Leyva in the news.
For a week, I kept on coming back to this. I put it in the Bible.
She saw that he was nearly killed by a hit-and-run driver on Hendersonville Road while riding his bike home from work, but there was something more.
He said, I want you to go to the hospital, and I want you to pray for this young man.
She says God was speaking to her.
And I said, I don't know them. They're not going to let me in.
Days later,
the same thing. Go. And I said, I can't go. I kept on saying, no, no, no.
And a few days after that, she was driving near Mission Hospital.
And the same voice said, go. So I said, okay.
That's when she met Leyva's parents, Terry and Christian Guerrero.
We made a circle around the bed, and we started praying.
Within the hour that she came in, and he hasn't moved his arm, barely twisted his arm, he lifted his arm right after we finished praying.
Leyva's parents say ever since that visit, their son has been doing better.
He had started moving his hands up to his throat, that they actually had to put him in restraints.
Then, about a week after the visit, his mother shot this video.
Stop your fingers for Mommy.
Leyva's father describes the moment his son's doctor heard about this.
He was ecstatic.
A sign their son might snap out of his coma.
I can't even express how much hope and happiness I had to see that.
You know, and I'm extremely thankful.
A woman's faith helps catch a home invasion suspect. Police arrested 24-year-old Derek Lee after they say he tried to rob a group of 15 women who were at a jewelry party. The women say Lee left after the group started chanting the name Jesus.
I've just always believed in God's word, and he says that he's there to protect us in times of trouble.
Jackie Hagler put her faith into action Friday night when police say armed robber Derek Lee broke into her house wearing a ski mask and a bandana. Hagler says 15 women gathered for a jewelry party, and Lee walked in through an open door. When he threatened to shoot, Hagler says she proclaimed something else.
I just stood up and I said, in the name of Jesus, get out of my house now. And he said, I'm going to shoot someone. And I said it again real boldly. I said, in the name of Jesus, get out of my house. And everybody started chanting, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. He just did a quick scan of the room, turned around, and ran out the door as fast as he could go.
It's the reason why Hagler says she has a lot to be thankful for. We caught up with her at the Christ Community Church for a special Sunday service. Her jeweler, Acton Brown, is also amazed at the outcome. She retreated to another room when Lee pulled the gun.
As I was backing out, that's when I heard Jackie say, get out of my house in the name of Jesus. And then as I was kind of sneaking into a closet to call 911, I just heard all the ladies just chanting and screaming, Jesus, Jesus, get out in the name of Jesus, Jesus.
Shortly after the suspect Lee was literally run out of his house here in Lake City, he tried to rob another woman at an ATM. According to police, he was identified shortly after that and arrested. Hagler and others say that someone bigger than them is trying to get a message to Lee.
Hopefully he'll get the message, and hopefully it's a story that can be turned into good one day, and hopefully he'll have a testimony.
I have forgiven him. I'm praying for his salvation. I'm hoping that this situation will lead him to trust the Lord too and to turn his life around.
In Lake City, I'm Tarek Miner, Channel 4, the local.
First, at 6:40 p.m. yesterday evening, I received 2 warning calls from 2 friends telling me that there were 2 criminals that had escaped and had just gotten a shootout with police officers.
2 inmates in Georgia overpowering their guards on a prison bus, killing them using the officers' own weapons. The inmates then getting away in a stolen vehicle they carjacked.
Georgia authorities tonight tell us that the inmates who got away after murdering 2 prison guards are out running around with .40 caliber Glocks. Putnam County Police are desperately searching for these 2 fugitives, 43-year-old Donnie Rowe and 24-year-old Ricky Dubose. Both are career criminals who are serving hard time, and police say one of them is a member of the Ghost-Faced Gangsters, a white supremacist prison gang. Their run from the law came to an end after police say they broke into an elderly couple's home Thursday, held them at gunpoint, and then drove off in their SUV.
The couple had the wherewithal to break free and notify authorities.
The authorities came running. The high-speed chase lasted for 10 miles on Interstate 24.
63 is leaving in now. Traffic pretty good. Traffic's picking up a little bit. Speed's about 100.
One of the escaped inmates was driving, the other in the back seat, shooting at police.
63. I think I hear shots fired.
That's when police say they crashed the SUV, lost their guns in the wreck, raced into the woods, and then walked to a nearby home hoping to steal another car. But the homeowner had a gun.
6:46, I loaded every weapon I could in my house to be prepared in the event that they needed to be used. 6:47, I saw 2 white males cross a barbed wire fence 300 yards from my back door. 6:47, I prayed like I have never prayed before. 6:48, I called 911, and I grabbed my sweet daughter, and we made the decision either to get in a panic room in our house and be trapped, or to get in our car and head down the road. We got in the car and backed up quick, only to find that the gentleman had been running and got much closer to our house. They began to take off their shirts and started waving them at us as if to slow us down. My vehicle looks very similar to a police cruiser. I don't know if that's the reason why they started to surrender. I had a weapon on me, but I never had to draw the weapon like it has been released in the news. I began to slowly back up as they came closer. As they came closer, we continued to slowly back up. At that point, I realized I had 2 ex-cons wanted for murder that just shot at law enforcement and nothing to lose. And for some reason, they started to surrender and lay down on their stomachs in my concrete driveway. If that doesn't make you believe in Jesus Christ, I don't know what will.
I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins.
92-year-old Pauline Jacoby reads her Bible every day. Her strong faith keeps her going in life, and in the process may have saved it. Jacoby had just finished putting away her groceries inside her car at a nearby Walmart. Only seconds after Jacoby got into her car, a man jumped in the passenger side. The man told Jacoby he had a gun and that he would shoot her if she didn't give him money.
I said, no, I'm not going to give him my money.
Jacoby told him no 3 times. Then she started to talk to him.
You know, as quick as you kill me, I'll go to heaven and you go to hell.
She told him to ask God for forgiveness.
I said, Jesus is in this car and he goes with me everywhere I go. And he just sort of looked around and the tears began coming in his eyes.
Jacoby ministered the man for 10 minutes inside her car.
And he said, I think I'll go home and pray tonight. I said, you don't have to wait a minute. I said, you can just pray anytime you want to.
As tears were rolling down the man's face, Jacoby voluntarily gave him all the money she had, $10.
And when I told him I was going to give him the money, I said, don't you spend it on whiskey either.
The man thanked her for the money and then
reached over and kissed me on the cheek.
and walked away.
He walked away.
Well, this had all the makings of a story that would end sadly, but not for Becca Collins. Her mom believes had it not been for God, her daughter wouldn't be alive today. When you're 4 years old, this is how life should be. Carefree and full of joy. But you never guessed that Becca Collins was so sick just 2 years ago. Her parents, Terry and Jimmy, feared she might die.
I believe she's my miracle from day one.
Miracle because at just 18 months old, Becca went to the hospital for a routine procedure to remove tubes from her ears and adenoids. Back home, and 3 days later, her condition butterflied out of control.
We didn't know what was wrong. She wasn't walking, she wasn't talking.
She started having seizures. By the time they got her to the hospital, Becca would have 16 strokes, one after the next.
It's like something that I would have seen out of a horror movie.
But this was real.
We're having doctors coming in telling us, you know, your daughter might live, she might not live. This is just touch and go. And I remember thinking to myself that I was going to lose her.
Becca developed bacterial meningitis. That, coupled with the strokes, took her eyesight, hearing, speech, and her ability to walk.
We were just emotional wrecks. It's like zombies.
Zombies so lifeless and unresponsive that Terry Collins breaks down in tears as she remembers the terrifying journey.
That's the worst feeling I've ever felt before in my life. We as parents, we take life for granted. We take our children for granted. And it could just all be taken away from us just like that.
Then came the questions.
Why us? Why did this happen to her? And I was just like, how can I do this? I can't do this. Why I can't do this? We prayed many prayers over her, and we would just pray, Lord, just tell us, just give us peace, just show us what we need to do.
They found that peace in Isaiah 41:13.
Fear not, for I will help thee. And no matter what, he helped us through everything.
Yay! Good job, Becca.
72 days in the hospital, painful rehab, and 51 days after Becca went home, she took her first steps. Her speech returned. So did most of her hearing.
I don't understand it. All I can say is that we've been blessed. I feel like she's a miracle child. I feel like that if it wasn't for God, she wouldn't be alive. I thank Him every day. There's nothing I could do to thank Him enough.
Terry is so amazed by her daughter's transformation, she tells others to keep praying and never give up.
I see love. I see hope. Compassion.
I remember being in the ambulance thinking, what is going on? I don't understand.
I jumped out of the truck, pulled my gun, told him to drop the knife, get on the ground. He did everything I told him to do.
Power of prayer. When the EMTs...
It's an absolute miracle that he survived this.
I asked you to touch him. I asked you to keep him lifted up.
Touch this man, Lord. Touch this, Lord.
what I could help out. I don't know if you know what we saw. I heard the skidding and I saw the accident happen. The red car went up in the air. I ran over there, and I got down on one side, tried to talk to the lady inside the red car. It was flipped over, and then I could talk to her, but I tried all the doors. They were all locked. I couldn't get them open, so I got everybody to help me flip the car over, and I got her out real quick that way. And it's just a blessing that she's alive.
Pages from her journal
Visibly shaken and did not know what to do.
document desperate moments from just days ago.
The girls and I sat in the shade and each prayed.
Julie Vanish, her husband Jay, their 2 daughters and dog, all soaking up the beauty of southern Utah.
As Moab gets more crowded, we push farther and farther out into the remote areas.
It was in that remote area,
There's nothing out there.
along the Escalante River, where the family unexpectedly found themselves in stronger than normal river currents. Rapids that can make kayaking an exciting adventure only grew stronger and more dangerous.
And then we hit another rapid, and we all flipped.
The damaging force so strong paddles are ripped away from the family. They quickly realize they're in trouble.
We're in the middle of no stinking where.
Cell phones here are useless, no communication, no shelter. But with food and water to last a few days, the family sets up a makeshift camp along the river, and they wait. Jay, a pastor in Bailey for more than 20 years, turns to God.
His hand of goodness was with us even when things were hard.
24 hours go by without seeing a soul. Day 2 arrives and still no one in sight. Not sure how much longer they would be stranded, the family again turns to God. And in that moment, they say he worked a miracle.
And we sat down to pray, and we prayed, and within 2 minutes, the helicopter showed up.
A rescue team searching for another stranded kayaker spots the family on a sandbar just large enough to perform an airlift rescue.
They were definitely, literally our angels.
Saved, they believe, by divine intervention. Now back home, the family tells us they could not be happier to be back in Colorado.
In an instant, life can change.
God, you can't take my partner. I need her. I need her in so many ways. I mean, we've been through so much in 28 years. There's nothing that I've done in my life that's been of worth that hasn't been with her by my side.
For Crossroads Senior Pastor Brian Tome, that instant came in a phone call 2 weeks ago.
It was my daughter, and she said, "Dad," she was crying. She said, "Dad, did you hear Mom? She just had a stroke. She's in the hospital right now. I need to go right now."
Libby has no previous history. There were no warning signs, but in the middle of a workout, it hit.
I really felt pretty exhausted, and I went to my next exercise, and I just kind of collapsed.
So I was fully prepared that our marriage and our life was going to change permanently at that moment.
I remember being in the ambulance thinking, what is going on? I don't understand.
And there she was in the bed, lying there with her eyes open, couldn't move her right side, couldn't talk at all, wasn't sure if she understood anything of what was happening. We just put our hands on her and we just started praying.
And so did hundreds of people in their Crossroads family.
I know that medically speaking, we have a 3-hour window from what they say, so I'm just watching the clock.
After hours in surgery.
I clearly remember some significant amount of pain. It was like crazy pain, and I actually thought, oh my goodness, he's messing up, you know.
That pain was doctors removing a blood clot that was blocking blood flow to half of Libby's brain.
When he was done, I could right away move my hand.
24 hours she took her first steps.
I could walk and I could climb up steps and down.
She woke up the next day and the stutter was gone.
Doctors and nurses at Good Samaritan called it a miracle. Brian believes it was good medicine, great doctors, and someone up above taking care of the person who's taken care of him for all of these years.
I've had a lot of great relationships in my life. They're all gone. They're all gone except for her.
And Libby got something else that day.
It made me realize that all the things in my past that have held me back from fully feeling loved and fully feeling accepted, even in my own family, gosh, that just washed away with this situation. So I just feel fortunate and just so loved.
This is what the Johnston family calls a miracle. 14-year-old Teresa Johnston, Walking and smiling.
Due